All right, what's up, guys? Going to be firing up some sit and goes here. Just going to play four of them. Um, Over here to the right, we've got a $30 knockout with bounties. So you can see everybody's bounty number there. And on the left, it's just a $30 Turbo 6. Both are Turbo 6s. One just has one's a bounty and one's regular. So I'm going to retile these tables until the other two register. So I've got two more registered, just waiting for them to come through. At least I think I'm registered for two more. I'm going to check here, first to act. See if we can hop in this other turbo. It's not too late. Not a big fan of letting it check twice, although that probably hits them quite a bit on the turn there. And we got through. Jack 6, pretty easy fold. Jack 4 will be an easy fold. All right, so it looks like our other double or nothing is loaded. 3-9, easy fold. And so here's our double or nothing table. Go ahead and fold here to the raise of the small blind. Let's go ahead and tile these the best that we can. Their software seems to be pretty glitchy, but it's sustainable. So we'll check the 4-7 and diamonds here. We're going to under the gun limp. Obviously a limp on the small blind, and I'll go ahead and check that. Any bets so we can easily fold. All right. Queen 8, too weak, under the gun +1. Go ahead and get away from that there. We don't have a lot of things else registering. I'd like to get in one more, but the registering is not happening. So we'll hop in a fast 9s regular and hope that it registers. 3-8 off, we can go ahead and fold. Queen 9 under the gun, we can fold. So I'm going to min open. Everybody folded to me, and my standard fundamentals is I'm going to start by min opening. So a lot of guys would check their 3 aces here, but I'm going to go ahead and bet just a little bit more than pot because I would do that with all my weekends. So I do it with all my strong hands as well. We filled up on the turn, and again, I would still bet a lot of my weekends. I may bluff catch with king highs and queen highs. Queen 10 off is too weak to call. That actually could have been a bad card. That probably killed some of our action. And we can limp behind here on the button with 7-8 of clubs in the double up. Fold 4-3 off. And we get a raise out of the big blind after 3 people had limped. And even though I'm on the button with a suited connector, 116 chips is still too much. It's almost a 6x raise. I can limp for 15 here. That's just too much of a raise. I'm going to go ahead and fold that there. Again, a raise from the big blind from True Lies. True Lies is playing on 2 tables, so we assume they know what they're doing. I'm going to go ahead and get that up out of position. and queen jack off with a limp under the gun. Yeah, I'm actually just going to fold this spot, and probably seems interesting to fold there, but I don't like limping and playing a multi-way pot, and it's not good enough to ISO, in my opinion. So I really get handcuffed if I can't do one of the two things I want to do, which is ISO in that spot or limp behind. Both of those hands I think are just too weak for either one of those spots. So queen jack suited, probably limping behind. Still don't quite think queen jack suited is good enough to ISO with, but definitely good enough to limp behind and look to flop something big there. All right, so here's our $15 regular. And this obviously is perfect to limp behind with. We're looking to flop a set or nothing. I'm going to attempt to tile the tables one more time. And I don't like the way it tiles 4 tables. And we flop a set down here. That's a good start to the sit and go. We'll fold here. I'm going to try to fix these as much as I can. So everybody's in this pot. So we're 8-handed except for the so we're 9-handed sit and go. 8 people in the pot. You know, pretty awesome spot here. Hopefully we would like to make a raise here where if it gets called, we have a pot shove on the turn. So that raise would need to be somewhere in the range of about 200 roughly. We'll do 257. If that got called by both spots, we're going to 3x under the gun with jacks. If that gets called by both spots, won't quite get us to the pot size all in on the turn, but it'll be close. So he does call, and I don't fear that 10 much at all. So now I could look to, again, maybe bet, you know, a couple hundred again, maybe a little more than, maybe like 340. So slightly less than half the pot. And now if he calls here, it's definitely just an easy jam on the turn. Again, I don't expect to see king jack, only king jack of spades obviously would make sense, but you know, that's fine. So we make quads. What is he going to call here on the river? Go ahead and check here. I'm going to polarize my hand, and maybe if he had like a weak ace, maybe now he thinks we're chopping. And I think that's probably what happened. And so we got a full double up there. So really nice spot to open up the hand down here at the bottom. Was pretty confident. King 7. We checked on the big blind after everybody limped, and we can go get away from there. So let's see if we can try to make the tables a little bit bigger, like we had it last night. Our software is really funky. It doesn't cooperate well. So we're checking deuce 7. Complete brick. Hold there. Aces against king 9. All right. Everyone folded to me, and so I'm going to go ahead and min open. We get called. I'm pretty sure we got called last time. And last time we had the ace 4, I believe, if this was the correct table. Check here. And so we're going to do the same thing we did last time. We're going to bet out, because if we're going to do it with our really strong hands, we're going to do it with all our hands. So we check the big blind here to a limp under the gun. So going to check and probably at least look to call once. Everyone folds to me here. We're going to go ahead and I'm actually just going to do the min raise. So even though it's still 25.50, I feel pretty confident with min raising with nines there. And so we're here, like we said, we're going to call off. We do got the nine, which could be the best hand plenty of times. I'd like to bet get it in here with this guy. So let's go ahead and raise a little bit more than 3x. So right around, or right at 3x, so right around 477. I'm going to check again down here, fold the jack five. Looks like we get a donk out. And another donk out. And so now we're going to have a decision up here, which will be really close. Going to go ahead and call again down here with the 8-9. Feel really good that our diamond's probably good, and it's probably pretty close that our 8 is good as well. What are we getting a donk out right here? Are we getting a donk out from a player who's thinking and thinks we're going to call twice with any spade? You know, is it like an ace bad spade? Maybe so. I'm actually going to go ahead and call this spot. It probably is not good. So it did turn out it was a draw, which is what it should be most times. It should be a draw, but a pretty strong bet there on the river, which he did a great job of making my hand a lot more difficult. So he did at least bet out the right way. He bet 3 times, but you know what? You have to really stop and think, what type of hands is he trying to get 3 streets of value from on that? And is he really thinking he's getting 3 streets of value with ace 9 and below? I mean, I have the 9 of spades, so I take away some of that. We can go ahead and fold the queen jack here. You know, so what is he trying to get 3 streets of value with? I mean, a flop flush does obviously show up there quite a bit. We're still at 1530, so we can 3x here. So a flop flush does make sense, and you know, maybe some aces with some spades in it makes some sense too. But you know, nothing really added up there like it should. So we get 3-bet by the guy who had the 8-9 earlier. I'm actually getting a really good price to go ahead and call. I'm getting just a little bit less than 3-1 on a call with a suited king jack, which we flop top to, but need to play with some caution with the diamond out there. I'm not going to ship here. He's getting too much equity if I ship to call with a lot of his diamonds. So I'd rather see the turn and really evaluate there if I want to get the chips in on the turn. And there's the diamond right there. So the blind's still 10 and 20. We can go ahead and 3x with our queens. Be curious to see if this diamond shuts him down or keeps him going. So we've got great showdown value. He's never calling with worse than 2 pair. So betting would basically be a bluff. I'm just going to check back and see if maybe we induce some bluffs on the river. I think it checked around and it gets checked to me again. So I can go ahead and bet out. We'll do our little bit more than half pot. I'm just going to check back here and we can comfortably go ahead and bet pretty strong with the queens here. Same player on both tables here with the, he puts in a nice little raise. Everybody folded when I bet the turn. He's too short to do anything silly like just call. And he's folding. He's calling with all his jacks. So we're going to go ahead and min open again in this spot. He's calling with all his jacks. So probably best is to go ahead and get it in. He's calling with all his flush draws too. So it's not like I'm stopping him from bluffing. So I'm never slowing him down by moving all in. Because if he's doing it with his heart draws and when I move in, he's still getting it in. So it's not like he's raising with a hard draw and folding. So if anything, I just kill my action with a bad card on the turn. Ace jack offsuit, full-handed, early. You know, I feel fine just folding there. So yeah, so in the spot right here, you know, if he has the 9-10, some hearts, some 6-7s, He's not giving that up anyway based on the stack size. And I don't want to take away, let me see here. Do that. So I don't want to take away from him. Let's see, min call. I don't want a card to fall off that slows him down from getting it in on the turn. So for instance, if I just flat with queens there and a queen falls off, a heart falls off, a straight card falls off, a ace falls off, he may decide to save his chips. So I don't want him doing that with his jacks there. I want to make sure I get all the money in. So we'll fold to a min open right there with 7-3, just a little bit too weak to get involved. Got a min open under the gun and a call. The king jack suited plays a lot better than king jack offsuit, even though I'm on the button. Just doesn't play great multi-ways. And so I'm just going to go ahead and give that up. I could decide to bluff with that hand. There'd be nothing wrong with bluffing on the button, probably getting it to heads up, and it'll play a little bit more straightforward. But, you know, why get in a high variance spot there? We don't really need to just yet. So looks like a limp in, so we can limp in for half the big blind. Blind's already up to 50 and 100, so we're going to have to look to play a little bit aggressive up here in the top left-hand corner. 5 deuce under the gun, pretty easy fold. King 4 suited, pretty easy fold. 9s hold up. So it looks like the big blind bet out, the original limper folded. And while we do have some equity here, looking at our chip stack, you know, we're going to have to go with too many turns here. So just going to get away from this. Not enough room to get too involved with just ace high. All right. So looks like we got to open under the gun to 2.5 and a call. If he had more chips, I would really consider 3-betting here. Actually, I 100% would 3-bet. But, you know, with his chip stack, he's really going to get it in there with any ace that I 3-bet with my king queen. He's still going in with ace deuce and ace 3, so we're going to be behind more than we'll ever be ahead, and he's just not folding enough. So we get a min open. This isn't good enough to ISO with, so I want to play multi-way pots with my pocket pairs and try to flop a set. So we got a limp under the gun, and we can limp for half a big blind there. And with the king 8, we brick, so we'll check out. Looks like I'm 1 off the button and everybody's checked to me, so I'm going to continue to check here and let Folly see if he wants to take the lead on this hand. Everyone checked around here, including the original limper, so I'm going to go ahead and bet this a little bit more than half pot. I have really no equity except for hitting a king, but I'm okay with that. Because I want to be betting there. So, okay, now we can go ahead and bet. I don't want it to check around twice, and we've got, don't want to let a free diamond off. And I'm actually going to go ahead and fire this spot again, pretty high, almost full pot. I don't think he checked a queen, but I could be 100% wrong on that. Ace 5 suited, good enough to open from the cutoff. And so we do get jammed on by a 6. So let's think about the ace 5 for a second. And, you know, this is an easy fold. So I like my bet on the river because it polarizes my hand and makes it easier when he shoves in. So I can just get away. Lost a blind versus blind. We're going to go ahead and call this shorthanded. And, you know, I don't think we're ever ahead. That's not why I'm calling thinking I'm ahead. The price is just too good. We're getting almost 4-1 on a call there, and we're still ahead of enough of his range. You know, he's doing that with queen jacks and king 10s and king queens. So we're ahead some, but more often enough we're beat. But our hand still plays too well right there. You know, if he didn't limp under the gun, I would call here, but I can't call 549 chips, but I could definitely call that raise. But I'm assuming that I actually don't know what Schooner just did. Schooner just called and leaves himself 450. So I don't really know what's going on. And they're checking it down, which is even more bizarre. And he hit a 3. All right. Don't know what to think about that here. Okay, we've got maybe just a few big blinds. He probably folds here when we shove because it's for a third of his stack, and hopefully we're ahead of whatever Schooner has. All right, so end up being a good spot there. And now the real tournament begins. So with the ace-6 here, I'm not going to min open. I'm just going to go ahead and open jam, deny any equity from any kings or queens. And, you know, sometimes you get people to really get curious here and call with some mediocre hands too. So it's hard. You don't really want to be inducing bluffs with ace-6 in that particular spot. So we limped in. I checked the big blind, and we did flop top pair, so that's good enough to go ahead and see bet on. Pretty happy to pick up 2 10s. This is the type of hand now with having a little bit more blinds that I would like to go ahead and min and see if I can get true lies to go ahead and kind of spew. The nice part about men opening into big blinds is they hate it. They hate when you do that. Now, of course, he could show up with the top of his range here, but we should be ahead more times than not. So we do get him to spew with the ace-7, and we hold, and now we're in a great spot, 3-handed. Looked like this checked around in a limp spot, but with my chip stack and based on the size of the board, the pot here, I'm actually not going to bet into this spot. I'm just going to check. We'll check out the ace-3. Now this is where it gets more interesting. We've got to chip up. We're in only top 2 get paid, and it's also a bounty. So now I am, because I don't have to bet twice, I only have to bet once on the river. I'm going to bet a little bit more than half pot, and because I don't think he's ever just checking back any pairs on that turn. At least he shouldn't be. And true lies is in there, which is way too much that we're going to get him to fold there with pretty much everything. So the reason why I don't bet that turn is if I do get called, I feel like I'm going to have to bet twice to do it correctly. So I might as well wait to the river. With ace-9, this is a spot. Earlier, let's see, we get a min open. I'm going to go ahead and call here in position. We're going to min open here, but we're going to min open and fold to a jam, where earlier with the 10s, I'm definitely going to call. Ace-9 is just not strong enough to call. But we do hit a good board, so we can go ahead and just bet just slightly more than half. I'm going to float here in position with the gutter and the flush draw with the intent of possibly raising turn or river. And so if I raise now on the turn, I've got to bet big on the river. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to raise it up just a little bit here on the turn. And then with the intent on, he's going to get stubborn here with a lot. And then, well, it helps when you hit the absolute miracle. But had that been a brick or paired the board, I was going to go ahead and fire again anyway. So I really want to get called here. So I'm going to bet about half his stack, hoping that he calls. I don't think he calls a jam, but I could be wrong. So see, that jack did nothing for me. So my play absolutely worked. You know, that bet had nothing to do with the fact that a jack hit. I was going to do that. I called it. I was going to do it regardless. And that was my plan from floating the flop. So I floated that flop to raise turn and bet river. You know, you can't make a decision to float a flop and raise the turn only to check back the river. You know, they're going to call a lot of raises, especially if they have equity. So great spot here, get shipped into with ace queen. That's an easy call there. Hopefully we just hold. So far looking good, and we hold. So great spot there. I picked up a bounty, and now we're three-handed. So we're three-handed on both here with some really good bubble play. And so it looks like we have a limp. So I can limp for half the big blind and then make some decisions afterwards. So with True Lies here, based on my chip stack, I'm just going to go ahead and chip into him. He has quite a bit less than 10 big blinds. I can check here with the Queen 7. And so he folds. You know, this spot here, I'm going to go ahead and min open and actually see if I can get any banana to induce. I'm going to check the Queen 7 in position. I'm going to go ahead and give this spot up with Nymphan behind me. I just get in too many spots where I'm going to take this pot down with the 7, where I'm having to get in there, and my draw is probably never good, and my deuce is really never good. So we get jammed on from True Lies, and while we have a ton of chips, we can't call with 5 high. I'm going to go ahead and min open Ace King. And everybody folded to me, so I can go ahead and min open into Packers. And he moved all in, so we can fold. We hit a great flop here. Now, how do we get all of his chips? Hopefully, if we bet about a little bit less than pot here, then we could bet full pot on the turn. So King 6, we bricked. We're going to min bet. Probably still good with King high. We get a fold. Again, with Ace Queen, I'm going to min raise to try to induce. King under the gun, I'm going to go ahead and fold. And I could try to call and end it now, but I'm going to go ahead and fold there with the King 6, which I was live, but I did not get there. So 9-7 holds. And he just flatted, and that could be, this is a spot where I know I'm calling 100, probably getting shipped on. I'm probably calling the 500 too. I'm actually going to check back my Ace Queen high there. I really almost never do that. But by doing that, I'm going to get him to bet a lot of turns that I'm still way ahead on. And so I'm getting him to value himself. Hopefully me and Dowsh here will just check it down. Or we'll just continue to flop the nuts every hand. So hopefully he bets. Going to call here like I talked about. I'm going to go ahead and bet him out of the pot here. That 7 murders his range, his turn bet range. So now I do have to check back and just hope my ace high was good. And it was. So that's why I really like my play there with the check back on the flop, because you just get them to induce, you induce them with worse. Pretty good chip lead here. I've got Ace Queen high. This time I'm not checking back. I'm not looking to induce. I've got really good equity. So I've got a king. I've got 2 overs. And so we're starting off the heads up match where I want to be pretty aggressive. Matter of fact, if he raises, I'm comfortable calling it all in and, of course, jamming on him there. This Queen 5 is pretty weak, but it still beats enough of his hands here. Run into the Ace Jack, and then we lose. And so we have Ace Deuce here, which we, I believe, checked. We're going to call the min bet here, the min limp in here. He checked behind, so I'm going to go ahead and bet half pot. And we get jammed on. So this should be a pretty easy fold here to give that up. Let's see, we can check the 3-6. Four-handed, I'm not betting out, even though it checked around. I'm not betting out there. We'll go ahead and min raise King 7. Wow, this spot is really, really close. This is really, really close here with the Ace 10. A lot closer than what I want. Basically, this is, if I call this and lose, I'm pretty much done on the bubble. Then fold the 5-6, check the 6-10. I'm actually going to give this spot up. I think it's really close. But I think I'm better than both of them, and I can probably hopefully find a little bit better spot there. So I'm going to give up the Ace 10. That could be a tremendous mistake. I'd like to bet this river, but I'm never getting value from anything worse than a 3. So pretty easy spot to continue to check and maybe get a bluff from. We flop the nuts again. This is pretty insane on this table. I'd much rather have nines here than the ace 10. And it worked out really well. So deuce 3, we get a jam. Even though I have a huge chip lead, obviously can't call it deuce 3. We're going to min open, even though I know it's a really bad hand and Annie has been really aggressive and moving in quite a bit. I'm okay. I'm okay doing that. Folds around to me here. I'm going to open up the queen 10 off. Let me get jammed on here with a bad hand. So let's go ahead and bet a little more than half with the top pair. I think we have to go ahead and fold here, unfortunately. And he leads out all in, and we have air, so we have to fold here as well. Pick up ace queen, which is really good. Unfortunately, he folded. Pick up ace 7 of hearts. These are spots where I'm never like raising and letting him get equity in there. I want them to also know that sometimes when they limp, I'm just going to go ahead and jam. So I'm just going to just smash this spot. I'm going to min open the button down here on the left. Just to get it over with. Just chip up, move on to the next hand. And then I'm going to go ahead and min open my 4-8 and check back with deuce 4 of spades. We'll check here. Looks like we bricked with ace 4, but good enough to go ahead and follow through. We've got the backdoor straights. We'll bet half pot here. I'm actually not going to lead out with my deuce 4. That 8 is pretty good for him. But we are going to bet our 4-8 over here. So I'm just going to still check. I'm kind of just check giving in. His chip stack is so small. And I think this is kind of a bizarre play, but I'm going to min bet and see if we just get him to call with like a weird king or queen high. I don't know that that'll happen, but I definitely don't want to lose any value there. So we min open and get shipped. I'm going to go ahead and min open from the cutoff here. We get shipped on with a hand that we're just going to have to call here. King Jack is not very good, but you just have to call. And same thing's going to happen over here. We're just going to have to go ahead and call with King 9 because we are inducing. And so, unfortunately, hit the queen on the left-hand table. But, you know, that's just part of poker. That's part of playing poker. Nice little cash here. Again, we were in tonight for 30, 60. We're in for $90. So we won 53 plus all the bounties. And I'd have to go back and look at what the bounties were, but I think we're doing pretty well so far to start the night. Annie called my min raise, so we just can go ahead and c-bet if we get checked to. Just do a half pot c-bet. The blinds are getting really big, and so we probably have to adjust some of our play. Instead of min opening as much, probably just look to jam in more spots. I don't think Annie ever has an ace here, but do they get really stubborn with hands like an 8 or a 5? Probably so, but I'm still going to go ahead and jam. I'm not leaving myself with 3,000. If I get called, I get called, but I still feel confident it's the right play based on how few they have an ace. How many times am I going to have an ace there? It should be almost every time with that type of bet. So. All right, so ace 6, the blinds are 2 and 4. He's got, what, 8, 7 big blinds, something like that. Fine to go ahead and ship ace 6 now. It's a complete craps table shoot now. Just going to be getting it in with a lot of hands and just whatever happens at this point. Queen deuce is just not quite strong enough to call. It's close, but not quite. You know, unfortunately, he's going to have to fold the jack 5 here. It's going to kind of be an all-in or fold type of deal. I'm actually not even going to call the min raise with the 4-7. I'm just going to go ahead and give it up and really play fit or fold here, which is going to be jam or call. So deuces are good enough. Let's go ahead and jam the deuces. And we ran into 4s. You know, that's okay. All right, and we're still in with 2 big blinds. So now we're getting in with jack deuce. Sadly, I'd rather just wait till the next hand. That's literally the worst hand in poker. And although it's going to crush me blind-wise, I'd rather just put my chips in without looking on the next hand. I can min limp here, hold there, and I upgrade from 7 deuce to 8-3. Fantastic. And of course, I'm dominated. And we get there. Look at that. I can't call a $200 raise with only 361 in chips. Jack 7, that's good enough to go ahead and get it in here with 5 big blinds. So I have to fold here for 200 more because of the chip stack. There's just no implied odds. I can limp the 10-5. And we just fold the 9 deuce. And so, you know, oddly enough, we're not out of it. A double up, we flip positions. So I'm just getting really, really bad cards right now. I'm not even going to ship the 5 deuce. I'm just going to wait. And again, a really bad hand. Not having a lot of luck here. King 5 is good enough. And King 10 will be good enough. And we ran to Ace Jack. Kind of a flip situation here, and he made the flush, and that was it. So really good tournament up here. Again, I think I said we're in for a total of 90. And we picked up 50 on the other one, plus all the bounties, and we picked up 57 over here. So so far a good start, and we're now free rolling. Have another pretty good session. Let's go ahead and tile these 2 tables up. All right, so we got a regular 9-handed sit and go on the right hand, and we got the double up on the left hand. Looks like we need 2 more people to get knocked out on the left-hand table. All right, it's been a while since I've raised, so I'm going to go ahead and open up here for 200. If you're seeing that 930 on the screen, that's just a glitch from where I tiled the tables. Hopefully that'll fall off pretty soon. You know, I have, so, you know, this is pretty stupid. Even though the strength of his hand probably goes up, that he re-raised and left himself 222. But I'm okay with that. He still has enough ace, kings, and queens and stuff like that in his hand. And so I'm just going to go ahead and get it in here against him and just hope we win the coin flip. Or if we're behind, you know, maybe we get lucky and spike a 4, which we didn't. But with his chip stack, yeah, that hand plays pretty straightforward there. Like I said, I mean, I think it does add some strength to his, but now that we saw the ace jack, it doesn't. But when people do that, it adds some strength to their hand. But with his really short stack, I'm still getting it in there and just gambling he doesn't have a pair. Pretty stupid play with ace jack, obviously, to leave yourself 222, but maybe it was a misclick. Okay, everybody folded. We've been really min-raising Packers almost every time and c-betting every flop and probably really annoying him. But a good flop for us to go ahead and bet just a little bit more than half. And maybe this is one of those spots where we get him to jam with the worst 3 because he probably is frustrated. And based on his stack size, after what I bet on the flop, I'm going to call. And, you know, you run into a better hand there, you run into a better hand. But, you know, you've really got to factor in the fact that if he's paying attention, which he probably is, he's watched me min-raise into him every single time. Lip under the gun, lip under the gun plus 1 and plus 2. You know, this is a pretty cool spot here where I'm going to go ahead and bet where I'm going to get called by queens and I'm going to get called by heart draws. Hopefully it was just a queen, but most likely there's a heart involved there too. Pretty weird to think what on that board, what they're checking back. So this will make my hand play really straightforward here. Once I check and he bets, I can easily just go ahead and fold. But oddly enough, I can bet a 5 there and get called with worse, which is pretty great. I mean, maybe did he flop the nuts with ace queen initially, and that's why he checked back? Maybe. All right, so we get a min open, and he's only got 1,065 chips, which is less than 10 big blinds. So instead of jamming, I'm actually just going to make it 1,065. And maybe we can drag Folly along to do something silly there. All right, and we get to hold up against the ace-10. So another good run there. I wish I wasn't so jammed up. I'd like to make more notes on a lot of these players. I recognize a lot of people like Ace Hole and RHYS. This guy was on both my sit and goes. That's kind of all I recognize. Hopefully the sixes will hold up. Nope. So this is good and bad. I've got two of the extreme short stacks on my left who, oddly enough, just limped for 150. And he minned, so this makes it even more weird, with a hand that I'd like to get involved with. I'm assuming that Packers is going to jam after I limp, and I really can't call 700 chips. At least I don't think I can. So I'm actually going to give this up. He folded, which is just so retarded. And I would have won with King Queen. So what Packers limp folded with there, who the hell knows? Hopefully they don't leave me to do the dirty work here with Jack 6, but I'm going to have to do it. You know, I can't fold to him and just give him a free chips. And obviously min raising is not an option, so you just have to jam in there and just pray. Zazik here should only be calling with really, really, really good hands because Packers here is so short. So this is a spot actually where I said before I shouldn't ever min fold. I don't want to cough up 1245 jamming, so I can min here if my screen doesn't freeze. And if Packers jams, you know, obviously I'm getting the price to call. It's only a couple hundred more. If Zazik jams, I can go ahead and fold. So, you know, so many things are so situational. And, you know, here's an area where I think people like to make mistakes too, is they try to raise this spot, assuming the same stuff, but I would rather them get involved and let him do some of the dirty work here. So we get a jam. Let's see what happened here. It looks like under the gun jammed, and he called for 197, of course. And it's half my stack, so I can just comfortably fold. I mean, call. We keep flopping the nuts. It's outrageous. So something to point out, he's limped a ton, and now he's min opened. And if people were playing right, when we flat here in the small blind, he should be jamming a ton with two people doing that because he's going to be chipping up so much. And so I'm just going to go ahead and fold the ace nine of diamonds. All right, so we're going to try to put somebody out here with 9 deuce. It did not happen. And there's queens versus 6-7. So see, he's been limping a ton, which makes me believe he's been limping with really mediocre hands. And then now he opened with a really good hand. This spot really, really sucks for me. But I've got to jam here. Queen 3 suited is too strong, even though it's for way too many of my chips if he calls. 589. I'm going to think about that for a second. No, it's not good enough to call there. I think that's another big mistake. People just try to get really desperate there and call with hands like that. Well, I want to, and I think it covers enough of his range. It probably just doesn't. All right, so we got the 2740 over here, and then we've cashed over here. So really good session tonight, regardless of the end outcome. We hit the double up, and we finished second in a 6 max, and we finished. Let's go ahead and half this one, a little bit more than half, and we've at least finished third over here. So far it's been a really good night. I'm okay limping here. We're all about equal in stacks. Okay, we'll go ahead and check out the middle pair. All right, here's a spot where I'm really comfortable go ahead and betting. I'm going to get called by diamonds. I'm going to get called by straight draws. I'm not getting called by worse tens. So I'm only looking like if I get called here, I'm just assuming either A, they hit a six on the turn that they're going to call with, or they're calling the diamonds or straight draws that I'm beating. And so I'm going to go ahead and min open on the button. I haven't seen a ton of aggression from either one of these yet, except for RHYS has had big hands, and he's opened with those. So he's let out here. I'm going to go ahead and flat that and then look to raise turn bet river. Great card for me, gives me some equity. Usually I raise really big here, but I'm going to raise a little bit, about 1/3 the size of the pot. I mean, excuse me, 2/3 the size of the pot is what I'm going to raise. I expect it to get called. And okay, so now my plans have really changed. Okay, this is a spot where if I'm betting the river, am I betting as a bluff or am I betting as value? I don't think he calls with worse hearts. So I'm just going to check back and hope that I'm good. Let's go back and look what he had, and let's see if maybe that's a spot in the future where we could consider if we really understood the board and the betting, which I don't understand donk, so that really throws me off. I don't think he calls there. I could be 100% wrong. I probably could have got some value on the river, but I don't know that I see a call there. So we've got a min raise on the button. We're all about equal in chips, so I'm fine with calling here. Assuming he probably just calls here more than he raises. If we felt like ace raises a lot in these spots, then folding is better. So we hit top pair, and we're going to check. So it seems like RHYS is playing his hands really straightforward, which almost leads me to believe that maybe I'm not ahead right now, but I'm never just folding to one bet. So I'm definitely going to call, make him bet twice. But the fact that he let out with king high, let out again the same amount with the king four, makes me think that he's betting when he has good hands and he's betting small when he has bad hands. Because if you notice, he bet the 150 again on the turn. While he made two pair, there was a flush that became available, even though he still called the raise. I mean, I know what I would do in normal spots here, but let's say he's got us beat and we flat right now. He's jamming every river. And based on the stack size, if we call turn, we have to call river. And I'm going to be honest here. I just think that we're beat. So I think we just, even though we called 10 jack to hit a jack and now we're folding, I think we're behind here. I think we're beaten by a better jack, aces, queens. So I'm just going to go ahead and give it up, which could be an argument for folding 10 jack in the first place, which is a lot of times I do. But with being three-handed, I wanted to go ahead and kind of get involved there. I'm sort of putting myself in other people's shoes. I could see people questioning, well, why not raise on that flop? I think it opens us up to just really, really difficult decisions where you start just valuing yourself. You raise, he calls, you bet turn, he just calls. You feel like you're jamming river with the best hand, he calls, and he's just got the aces. He's got the queens, he's got the ace, king, ace, jack, king, jack. And so if you notice last time with the king four, he kept his bet sizing the same. This time he increased his bet sizing. I think this is just a limp. So that should kind of give us a signal there that he does have a really strong hand. Okay, so now what is he checking? And I'm going to go ahead and bet. We'll just go with the half pot here. I usually would not be concerned about an overcard, but that is going to hit a lot of ranges there with his limp in, like with queen jack and things like that. Yeah, so good. Okay, so this goes back to points I've made in the past where this is why I like betting in these spots, because if I check and it gets checked and he bets, I'm going to feel like I need to call. Well, now I can control the betting, and then I can see the action behind me and make good decisions. Queen jack is exactly what I called. The 8-10, I knew he had something pretty strong. So, but yeah, usually I'm not worried about overcards, but based on his limp range, that jack crushes his limp range. But I'm not comfortable enough continuing to check and then have to make decisions after they bet. I'd rather bet and watch their actions after I bet and help me make decisions. So at 1 or 200, we've got almost 20 big blinds. We go ahead and call a raise there. What is he checking back here? No clue. But again, we want to go ahead and bet. We hit the 9, and I want to see where I'm at. Is he checking back good aces like ace 5, ace 3, and sets? Absolutely. Is he checking back king high, then calling on the turn with diamond draws, etc.? Yes. So here I can't bet again and get raised. I'd rather check and catch a bluff. Jacks. So there we go. That pretty much plays. That jacks makes sense. He doesn't want to bet and get raised off if I have an ace there. So we opened. We got check 2. Easy spot to c-bet. There. I want to talk about this hand if I get a good chance, but the reason why the check back with jacks is really bad is because I'm calling with a 3 and a 5 in all my draws, so he's missing out on a chance to get value right there. We'll go ahead and min open the queen 10. We still have enough chips we can fold. We still have 15 big blinds, so we're okay. Not sure what he said here. Oh. So now I know he's doing this really light. So now I can start calling it off with, king highs and ace highs, queen highs, jack highs, things like that. I'm going to go ahead and bet out half pot. I did it earlier when I had a hand, so I feel like I should probably be doing it when I don't have a hand as well. And we brick here, but I'm going to go ahead and follow through again with another bet. Almost pot size. We'll go down just a little bit here, saving us some chips. Okay. 1 or 200. I'm still fine. I'm still fine min raising. Still got enough chips to do that. And we'll go ahead and bet just right at half the pot. And we get jammed on. So just really standard here. No problem. Hopefully we'll start to pick up some hands and run a little bit better. So the blinds are going up next hand. So we will have only about 7 big blinds. So we'll get a lot more aggressive now. We can no longer min open. It's pretty much just fold or shove. So here's a spot. Go ahead and shove and, deal with results. All right, he's shown to bet here. Yeah, I could min bet this for a little bit less than half pot and probably call a shove off because he's doing it with a 5 or an 8. 9, 10 of diamonds. I'm going to go ahead and just ship this spot. We got less than 10 big blinds. Queen 3 of hearts, still good enough. 10 big blinds. It's pretty much a crapshoot at this point. So we're at a 3-to-1 deficit on chips. So hopefully he shifts here and gives us a chance to call. Like we talked about earlier, when they limp in right here, I'm perfectly fine taking a hand like this, just smashing, getting it over with, or you get them angry and they call with worse. So ace 10, going to go ahead and ship again. And we've been shipping a lot, so maybe he calls with worse hands. All right, complete brick. And we can fold. Chipped up real nice there in a nice little run. So now we're almost 2-to-1 chip disadvantage. So now if we double up, we'll be even in chips. Good time to pick up nines. Again, just going to go ahead and smash. Maybe he calls with worse. We've got a little bit more now than 10 big blinds, so I'm pretty good, okay with min raising. And if we get the jam on us, we just go ahead and give it up. Go ahead and fold there. He's limping and 3Xing, so I'm not real sure what kind of balance that is. We'll go ahead and give up to 5-10, but I'm sure there is some balance to that. I just haven't found it. I haven't exactly found what his fundamentals are. It could be there are none at all, but yeah, so we got a 3, we got more than 3X, and then we got limp ends. So if he's doing that with percentages of his range, then that's probably pretty good. 9-7, I'm actually going to go ahead and min raise. Really good flop for me here, middle pair, and I've been betting in these spots, so maybe this is a spot where he fires back with less than what we have, and we can go and get it in. Check the queen 6. We spiked the queen on the turn. So here's a spot where people make mistakes where they check this. What have we been doing? If he checks back, we've been betting. And now we've turned a pretty big hand, right? We got top pair. We have a mediocre club draw. And now we pick up 2 pair. Again, people make mistakes here where they try to trap on this river by checking. I'm going to try to get pretty good, strong value on this river. You could argue checking. Is he going to, let's say he missed a club. Is he going to fire there on a missed club? Maybe. But we also just miss way too often where he checks back middle pair that he's willing to make a call on that river with, that he's never going to bet that middle pair, typically. So we'll stick to what we've been doing. Although the queen really gets up in his range really strong there, we're going to go ahead and bet the turn. We do get called, and we brick the river, but I'm pretty happy with betting again, although I think we're getting looked up here a lot. I'm going to bet a pretty big bet that if he raises, it's obviously easy to get away from. I really expected to get called there by almost anything, and we were fortunate that we didn't. But you can't lead that turn and just give up rivers. They're just going to call you every time when that happens. So I expect him to get a little stubborn at some point, but I'm going to go ahead and put out a half pot bet here after he checks to me after opening. And here's where I kind of expected this to start happening. And tempted to float off here with queen 9. Maybe pick up a 10 and jam, pick up a king and jam. Even an 8, I would consider jamming the turn. But, we've built up a pretty good chip stack back up. I'm just going to go ahead and fold here with the queen high. Although I don't think that's a jack often enough, but that's okay. Let's check here. Easy fold. All right, so based on chip sizes, blinds, I'm inducing this time with the A7, but I don't get that bet. So unfortunately, he doesn't jam, but we'll stick to what we've been doing, which is a half pot bet on the turn, no matter what. And a lot of times with boards like this, guys get really frisky with their kings and their jacks. So we're going to go ahead and bet twice. Had I been checking back turns, here we get jammed on. So this is not a great spot, but we have to call, obviously. We're not saving ourselves 944. So like I called it, they get really frisky with their kings. And so he, kind of went off there just thinking I don't have an ace there often enough. And part of that, here's where I'm going to go ahead and jam after a limp. part of that, what I talked about earlier, is I've just been betting and betting and betting and betting and betting that, you know, they sort of just decide to take a stand with something that's, you know, less than good. So fine to go ahead and get that up there. Up a really good hand to check raise with, and I don't think, I could be wrong, we haven't check raised a lot against him. He's checked back a ton. We're going to continue our bet on the turn when he checks back, tons of equity. And although he checked back, he does check back a lot of ace highs there, so that ace does hit him a fairly good amount of the time. Jack six of diamonds, that's going to have to go ahead and open. And this is a pretty good flop for me to continue. So we're always going to continue in these spots anyway, but going to go ahead and bet half pot again. Usually don't do this. He hasn't min raised that I've noticed yet. So I'm going to call his min raise here and just sort of feel him out, see what he does, see if he's willing to bet the flop. He's checked back a ton of flops, so that's fine. We completely bricked it. We can just get away and go to the next hand. Deuce nine, I'm just going to go ahead and fold. We did go up on the blinds now to 200, 400. Uh, 10-6, same thing, going to go ahead and fold. We're basically even in chips now. It's kind of a coin toss on who I think will win. Ace 10, we've been min opening, so let's continue min opening. And another really good flop for us to go ahead and bet half the pot in position. And we get jammed on 100% here. We are jammed on by a 7 or a deuce. So it's just unfortunate that we bricked this flop and we can't call. So we just have to give this spot up. Just a little bit unfortunate there that we don't make an ace or a 10 where we can call that off. So he limped, and this is what we talked about earlier. Let's just go ahead and smash. And Jack deuce of diamonds will min open here. I don't mind min opening as long as I have more than 10 big blinds when I'm heads up. Okay, so since I know he's going to be smashing a ton here when I bet, and I only have bottom pair with backdoor diamonds, I'm actually just going to check back. Maybe I pick up some diamond equity on the turn. And so what makes this spot kind of cool is now I can actually bet half the pot, delay the C bet. If he jams on me, I can go ahead and get it in because he's doing it with just a 10 and some somewhat funky hands here. So we'll check the 10-8. And we were going to bet no matter what anyway, but we picked up a draw, so we got great equity. We go ahead and bet here on the turn. And he calls. We brick. So at some point, I expect him to start calling these spots, and this is one of those spots I expect him to call, but that's not going to stop me from betting. So we just got unfortunate there that he hit a 5 on the river. But we're still profitable in that spot based off all the chipping up we've done, making that play. Pretty tough one to lose there. Although he did have the hard draw, but to hit the 5 is kind of unfortunate. I think if hearts fall off on that river, we don't, we don't go ahead and continue with the bet. I'm just gonna have to fold. I'm too short stacked. I can't call there, and not good enough to jam, I don't think. Right at 10 big blinds, we're just gonna go ahead and jam. And we get called by King 5 pretty quickly. and unfortunately don't hold up. So it was a good match and played really well. And that was the big spot right there that we just didn't run too good in. So I think we still had a pretty profitable night. About, I don't know what the bounties were again, but I think they were pretty good to me. So one somewhere between uh, 40 to probably $60. So pretty good little hour time there. And hopefully you guys learned something. And appreciate you guys being a part of it here. We're going to go ahead and end the recording, and um, I can figure out how to do that. And so thanks again. Hopefully you guys tune in next time.